Welcome back to Professional Wrestling, the podcast, which many believe is the official podcast, actually the unofficial podcast of Hamilton Pro Wrestling, because we're stealing all their stars all the time. You know, we've seen Bruiser Battersby through here. We've seen Van Landen through here. And man, we got the original HPW guy here. He is the one, the only, my wrestling client, my only wrestling client, but my best one. He is the one and only Mason Rush. Buddy.
Good day, sir. Good day. You forgot Vanna and Jax, who also
That's right.
were the best for last. I know what you were doing. You were saving the best for last. It's okay. They were on as well.
They were. Good memory. And good friends of yours. So
Good friends of mine, and I gotta say, taking the wrestling world by storm. The duo of death, as I call them. They're everywhere, and they put on a show. And if you see those two, or Jax or Vanna individually, go check them out. You won't be disappointed. They're rising stars. See them before it's too late.
very, very talented wrestlers. Big fans of this show, by the way. They never miss an episode. They told me. And so here we are, and you were gracious enough to be able to set that up. And man, you got connections in the world of wrestling. It's insane. You're wrestling for charity events. You're wrestling in Oshawa. You know, people are reaching out to you on a constant basis. You know, it's funny when you go from a dream, I want to be a wrestler one day. I want to be an author one day. And we're sitting and doing workouts together. And then all of a sudden, here's a book. Here's a wrestler. We manifested it. We made it happen. My friend, does it ever get to feel real, or does it still feel like a dream for you?
It's real, and I have the bruises to prove it. But no, it's a great journey. It's the shows are awesome, the fans, the crowd, everything's really great. But I find that my favorite thing to do is train. I love training. I love going in with the group, with new wrestlers, veteran wrestlers, learning from everyone. And going in, I go in on Saturdays and we train, and it's that to me is the best part of my week. So the shows are amazing, and wrestling with other wrestlers from other federations and other parts of the city. But the HPW crew is special, and you're never too good to go in and train.
And this begins and ends with Rip Impact, obviously.
No doubt.
You hear HPW, Hamilton Pro Wrestling, you right away think Rip Impact. And the way people speak of him as a trainer, a promoter, this man is born into wrestling. And man, how lucky are you to have him in your corner and be able to show you the way?
Oh, it's that's one of the luckiest things that's really ever happened to me was getting introduced to Rip and HPW. And going around with them and doing shows and learning and meeting. But recently I've also been helping them set up rings and doing ring crew at other big events for Greektown Wrestling. We set up the ring. So I met him at Ted Reeve Arena. And it's whether it's setting up for his own shows, whether it's setting up for someone else's show, his own ring that he sets up with the crew, it's always a great time. And he's always excited to do it, right? It's never a job if you love what you're doing. And we were setting up the ring, and he was so excited to tell us that he was there when Ring of Honor was at that same arena with Cody Rhodes and Tyler Black and Baron Corbin, all the Ring of Honor guys from back in the day, Colt Cabana, and he was there early to set up the ring so he could have a shot at being on the show and wrestling with them and meeting the crew. So he did it, which is why he can now pass that torch on. And it's hard to truly respect somebody if they've never actually done anything. So he's the real deal.
I mean, look, we've talked about this in past episodes, and this is one of the things for people who dreamt of being a wrestler, and I'm going to do this one day. When you got into there and into this world, this crazy world of wrestling, and you're doing your first group class, your first one-on-ones, the thing is, this wasn't your first rodeo. While you hadn't wrestled before, you were involved in mixed martial arts, other sports, in the world of competitive bodybuilding and fitness. Looking back now at your experiences in those arenas compared to where you are today, how similar is the training and the vibe from one to the other?
The training, I mean, the training is similar outside of the wrestling ring, right? Because when you do your wrestling specific training, that's like nothing I've ever done. Sure, like the wrestling portion, the grappling portion, similar moves, but there's a lot more to professional wrestling than meets the eye. And coming from an MMA background, right, it's very different. It's different goals, different style of training, but both very fun, very, very competitive. I also played lots of other sports, right? Athletic sports, hockey, all the way to golf and volleyball and track and field, right? So everything, and I mentioned this on a prior podcast, playing more sports will make you better at wrestling if you ever decide to become a pro wrestler. And the proof is in the pudding. Look how WWE recruits. They pretty much only recruit NCAA athletes and high level athletes. And that's because physically you can take the pain and do the work, but mentally you're able to do it too. And I think that prepares you a lot. And then on top of that, you build up the athleticism to be able to take the bumps and do the things that are required in the wrestling ring.
Well, two of your favorite sports, because while Mason Rush loves wrestling, participating in wrestling, watching it, you're a wrestling guy through and through. Two sports that really stick in my head that you and I are always talking about as far as your passions and loves: NFL football and UFC MMA, right? And if I had to
hockey
say,
too,
hockey as well,
hockey
right?
fan, yeah.
But we don't talk about hockey as much.
Yeah.
But if we're looking at, for example, at UFC, MMA, you're looking at that world, Bellator, and then you consider NFL football. I can see why those athletes, if I had to pick different sports and say who's best suited to wrestling as far as build and everything else, I can see the transition much easier from those two sports than the other sports, than from tennis or
100%.
baseball or golf. What is it about NFL football? Is it just those meaty matches? Is that what it is? Like, you love those 350 pounders?
NFL football, I mean, doesn't translate to wrestling as well as MMA does, for obvious reasons. Right. But it does give you a very solid, it depends on the position, but it gives you a very solid base in athleticism, right? Like Braun Breaker running those ropes and spearing that, I forget what his name was, but that's not made in a wrestling ring. That's just pure athleticism that's developed with suicides and with serious weighted running drills, right? You don't just wake up and do that because you can suplex somebody into a shoulder roll. I watched AEW this week and saw exactly a direct play from the MMA world. It was Kyle O'Reilly and Malachi Black.
The double kicks?
Well, it wasn't double kick. It's just that they started the match out like a Muay Thai match, right? They were in their Muay Thai position, and right to a actual Thai fighter, they would laugh, and it's probably funny looking, but that is a direct take from another sport, right? They tried their best to put on a Muay Thai fight before it got into the headlocks and the shoulder throw, stuff like that, but people are starting to take stuff from that, and it does look real. And when I fight people, it's the same thing, right? I'm not there to put on a show. I'm there to beat you up, right? That's the way I like it.
And that's where I think the most successful indie wrestlers or wrestlers in general are the ones that take their gifts, take their look, and are able to make it work for them.
Right.
Anywhere you go, no matter which federation or what your presentation is in wrestling, the one thing is the crowd always right away, that's the body guy. That's the jack
That's
guy.
the heel. That's the face. That's the guy we're going to chirp. That's the guy, right? And the crowd is the best judge of what you are and who you're going to be, because they're the ones that make that decision.
And that's where do you find over time, does it get easier and easier to connect with the crowd? And how does one connect with the crowd as a wrestler starting off? Is it in your contact with them? Is it in your wrestling style? Like, what is it that is able to help you as a wrestler connect with your audience when you're wrestling live?
I think wrestling fans are really smart. Obviously, especially when it comes to storytelling. I think that they can very easily see when a wrestler doesn't believe in their own gimmick, in their own product, in their own skill, right? I see it all the time. There's a lot of wrestlers, professional, indie, that go out and they give it 110% every single time. They're great, they're technical, but you can tell that they don't buy their own stuff. You know what I mean? Like, there's something missing, and that's what it is you're trying to be something that's very different from what you're capable of showing. So the best wrestlers are the ones that obviously are cocky and confident and believe in themselves, but on a deep level, for real. Like you wake up and you feel that character, that gimmick, that's going to transcend to the audience. If you're trying and searching and I don't like this name, I'm going to become this name. I don't like this gear, I'm going to wear this gear. You got to go out, you got to be confident in what you're doing, and the crowd will tell you exactly what they think about it.
Like you watch back in the tapes, you watch a Ken Griffey Jr. swing. It is so seamless. It's just like he's not even trying, and it's so perfect. Brock Purdy, when he throws a football, when Chad Gable goes to give a suplex, it's all the real superstars, and they think
Gunther chop.
Gunther, the chop, exactly. And this is where you believe it because they believe it, and I love the way you put that. And if I take on the opposite spectrum, that's where you see it. Gable Stevenson is no longer in WWE. Ronda Rousey is no longer there. Ronda Rousey, for all her success in MMA, when she goes in front of the camera in WWE, I wasn't buying anything she was selling verbally. And when she goes in the ring, everything felt forced. Everything is held back. And she's feeling it. And I think that's the energy she was giving the crowd. If she had just believed in what she was doing and put herself out there, and you know what, maybe it would flop a little bit, but at least what she was doing to be successful in the octagon, she could have gone and put it into the ring. It would have worked. But when you're going into the mindset, like she's actually said that, this is play fighting, this is beneath me. And once you go in and put that kind of energy, you're not going to succeed, in my opinion.
She was also the top dog in a small pool of UFC girl fighters where she...
Ladies,
where she created the league. She was the star. She was the champion. She could do no wrong. Dana White gave her everything, right? On a silver platter. And it was arguably during a time when the women's division was not nearly as strong as it is today. So would she even be able to do what she did then today? Who knows? But you then go into a whole other world of wrestling where there's a whole different kind of ego, and you try and bring your, I'm the best, I deserve everything on us. You bring it to where you haven't earned a damn thing, right? Just because you were just because you did something else doesn't mean, not everyone's Brock Lesnar, where you can seamlessly go from one to the other and be incredible at both without even trying. Like that's a rare breed, and that's why he's the beast incarnate. But
versus
nobody
go watch a CM Punk UFC fight, and
right, like I it's the same thing. Like I was a pretty good athlete and everything I was doing. It doesn't mean that I can walk into my wrestling school and automatically assume that I'm better than everyone, because I'm not, right? Just because I might be more athletic, it doesn't mean I know nearly as much wrestling as everyone else there. So you go in humble, you'll get a much better response than if you go in, it's my way or the highway.
And I love hearing the insights from a person. It's one thing we think we know it. We're all couch experts. But you're actually in the ring. You've taken those bumps. You in those practices. You're in front of live crowds. And so I got to ask you, as we had today's episode, Mr. Mason Rush, because I love picking your brain. 1 minute you walk into HPW and you're the new guy and you go into your first group class, and it seems like 2 seconds later, now all of a sudden, there's the newest guy and you're the guy who's been around for a while. And how does it feel giving now advice to that first-time wrestler? And how important is it to give back to the next generation, the next up-and-comers?
That is how it works. I walked into HPW. I was doing privates with Rip, which was great. I saw the posters, I saw the faces for weeks and months. And then as I got a little bit safer, he started bringing in other great wrestlers to train with me. So Travis Moore came in, and we had a bunch of weeks of great training. And I didn't even realize who he was or how great he actually was until, obviously now he's doing great things. And then he brought in, was my friend at the time, Goldie. And we trained together. Little did I know he was just learning my skills so he could backstab me like a sucker that he is. But anyway, that's different story for a different day. But yeah, so that was really, really good. And those guys were the people that I would watch and just marvel how easy it comes and how, right. And they would say to me, I've been doing this for years. So I had my kind of first moment like that a few weeks ago. I didn't even realize it, but I do. I help the new guys. I help. There's a crew called the J Squad, who's a very, very young and great prospect, up and coming for HPW, and they're going to do some great things. And I work a lot with them. And one of the J's in the J Squad came up to me and said, I want you to know, when I first started here, you were in one of the classes, and I saw you at a show, and I was really excited to be in a class with you, in a room with you. And I was like, oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And he said, we were working on drills, and you pulled me aside. You showed me, you corrected my angle on one of the punches I threw at you. And he goes, I really want you to know that meant a lot. It really helped me. And I was like, wow. Cause it was that exact moment. Cause I've done that with Jax Williams, with Bruiser Battersby, right? With Travis Moore, with Coach Rip. So it really does work like that. And not that I'm anything fantastic yet, but the little bit I have learned to pass on to people and it helps them means the world. It's great. And that's why everyone in the community is so great.
And this is one life lesson I think everybody could take, not just in wrestling, but in general life. Whether you're a professor at university, you're the manager of Dunkin' Donuts, you're running a factory, you were that person that first came in with that trainee label, and that's probably a lot of people gave you a hard time, and now you're like, now I got the authority, so now it's my turn to give the hard time. Maybe it's time to stop that part, and remember, there are people out there that actually went out of their way to help you, bring you along. Even if they didn't, you become that person. You can stop that trend. And if we all help each other, especially early on, we can develop a lot easier. And guess what? You have opponents that come up a lot quicker and safer because you shared that knowledge. And let's help one another. And I love that. And that's one of the things I love about HPW. And everybody who's come in so far as a guest, when the HPW superstars, they're all good people. You know what?
Yep.
They may have their personas in the ring, but they're all freaking fantastic people and kind, generous. And there's a reason why it's special to watch an HPW match. So if you've never been to Hamilton Pro Wrestling, you love WWE, you love AEW, and you're like, I don't know about this indie scene. These gals came from the indie scene. Yep. So go check out. And look, we've seen the indie scene. You see a Mustafa Ali, and you see people that have come from the ranks, and you see a Riddle. And so they can interchange between the indies and the pros because the line is very, very short now. Yep. Like, it's pretty cool how it's blurring, and that shows you the level of talent. That's why everybody and their uncle and dog are creating a new wrestling federation.
100%.
Because we are now entering a new golden age of wrestling.
Exactly. 100%. It's exciting, and they're really, I've seen a lot in the last little while in the wrestling world, and there's, that I know of, none, if not very few, coaches who have real schools that have real classes with drills and like a real sport that produces top level wrestlers at a high rate, and he can really fill an entire show, every HPW show, with only wrestlers he's personally trained. I don't think anyone else who runs a promotion can say that. Kudos to Rip.
Kudos to Rip Impact. Reach him at Mason Rush 33. I'm at Chosen Lawyer. And send your likes, your comments, your feedback. We love to hear from you. We love the lovers. We love the haters. So whatever's on your mind, share with us and ask your questions for Mason Rush as far as the world of wrestling goes. And if you're thinking about breaking into the industry and you've been raring to go, send him a line. He'll probably respond back.
Probably.
This has been Professional Wrestling, the podcast. We'll see you all back real soon.